Let's talk about your events. How you can attract more people and then cause those people to stick. Many churches struggle with the promotions. Like they rush through it. I don't know if that's you or if it's just me that's had that experience, but it seems like we're always rushing to promote something. Christmas is coming up in 2 weeks. Oh no, we got surprised by it again. Probably shouldn't be surprised by Christmas or Easter or really anything else that's going on. And I want to help you solve that problem. Or maybe you're like a church that you have these great events, a lot of people show up, but there's no retention afterwards. Like you're not growing, you're not seeing growth happen as a result of the event, maybe numerically or even like spiritually, like you just aren't seeing the fruit of having these events. So you wonder, should we even be doing this? Well, I want to help you with that too. So I want to introduce you to this concept of a highway. There's a highway and there's these lanes that are on the highway and there's a traffic that's going 60 miles an hour on the highway towards the vision. And as a leader, man, you're on board, you're on the highway, you're going towards the vision. But then you also have these on-ramps that are going to bring other people onto that highway. So what we want to do is determine what are the lanes. So what are the 3 or 4 things that you would consider as a church are the lanes? That means if people get into these things, then they aren't going to leave, not very easily. So there might be things like small groups or a serve team, like community is formed and friendships are formed. And man, if people get there, it's going to be really hard for them to just bounce and go somewhere else. They're going to give their resources. They're going to be passionate about the church and what's happening in the church. Determine what are those 3 ways, those 3 areas, 4 areas, maybe 5, where people just buy in and they're in it. And then everything else now becomes an on-ramp. And the key to an on-ramp is that you have whatever these things are, but they always point to a lane. So there's a thing in a marketing world called a call to action. The call to action is the next step. Here's what we want you to do next. So if you have an event that is an on-ramp that gets a lot of people to show up, at the event there should be an on-ramp to one of the lanes. That's what great companies do. They keep moving people towards the center or the middle of their offer so that they will be able to retain those people. And in a church sense, we want them to become members. We want them to stick around for a long time. So your on-ramps are your events. And by having the clarity that these events are designed to get people into a lane, it'll change the way you do the events. And you'll have the clarity to say, hey, these events need to be attractive to people outside the walls of the church so that you're able to serve those people well. And the events are shaped well so that they aren't too insider friendly. Now, I will say that if you need to have events that are very church-oriented to take people deeper into whatever you're doing as a church, then that's fine too. But for the most part, the on-ramps, they're on-ramps. They need to get people that are outside to the inside. So you can consider those things something different. Maybe it's a tunnel or a subway. I don't know what it is. But you can just make sure you have on-ramps that go towards these lanes. Now that we set up that concept, I want to tell you about an event promotion grid. And again, this is going to be a game changer for you. The event promotion grid starts about 10 weeks out. This is when you plan the event. So literally get everybody in that ministry into a room and then have them answer some questions. What is the win for this event? What is the target audience that we want at this event? And listen, a target audience, I just want to be clear, we're not saying no to anyone. We're just saying who's the ideal person that needs to show up for this event. So if you have a women's conference, it's probably going to be a woman, and it's probably going to be maybe in your women's conference you want to go for about that middle-aged 35-year-old woman that would love this event, something along those lines. Just determine who that is your target audience, and then also determine what is the call to action for your promotions. It seems very, very obvious, but sometimes people don't have a clear next step on the promotion. They get that invite and they don't know what to do next. So do they need to go online and sign up, or do they just need to show up? Just make sure that's clear. Also in your planning, make sure you know what types of media you're going to need for your promotions. So go ahead and list out every form of media, video, print, digital, and then just make sure that it's all listed out ahead of time and everybody determines what that is ahead of time. So that's going to happen about 10 weeks out. That's going to give you a very healthy time frame to create some really amazing promotions. Now, about 4 weeks out, 3, maybe 4 weeks out, we like 4, start your promotions. And then hit your print stuff should be up and ready to go by 4 weeks out. So that means ahead of time, you've got the stuff to the printer so that by 4 weeks out, like it's ready to go. Your videos are ready, your website updates are ready, your social media, digital advertising is ready to go 4 weeks out. The reason is that most people will come to church twice a month on average. We just want to make sure you hit them at least twice. So 4 weeks allows you to do that. Also, make sure you have a plan for the day of the event. So maybe great hospitality is something that you just want to make sure people experience, okay? Maybe you have a photographer there to capture the event or a video, something, so that you have materials for the next time you do it. So make sure you're thinking about the day of the event. And then one key thing to think about is what is the call to action at the event. So now that you've got all these people that showed up at this event, you need to think about what is the call to action for their next step. And again, we should think about those lanes. Like, how do we get them into one of those lanes that you've determined are the core of what it means to be a part of this church? So make sure you promote that well. And again, that's a very simple thing, but a lot of times churches have events and they do an amazing job at the event, but they don't give people a next step. So make sure you do that. Also determine on the day of the event, are you going to post on social media in some way? So have those things figured out. And then don't forget about after the event. Have a plan for after the event. So evaluate. Did you achieve the win? What went right? What went wrong? Ask the right questions so that you know if you need to make changes for the next time. And also make sure you celebrate. So about a week after the event, make sure you celebrate. That could be a recap video of some kind. Maybe it's an announcement from the stage and you show some photos in the background. But just make sure you celebrate. Make sure you're really good at celebrating. What you celebrate is what you're going to get more of. So everybody that was a part of that event needs to be celebrated in some way. Help them feel like they made a difference. And that'll go a long ways. So it could be a big celebration like from the stage, or it could be something that you just celebrate in smaller groups and in team meetings or different things like that. But make sure there's a celebration process in place. So I want to tell you about one more thing that'll help you quite a bit when you plan events. And that's a tier system. So as an agency, we use this quite a bit to help us plan ahead as we serve multiple churches. So a tier system is like this. You're going to put your events into different tiers. And here's how it works. You'll create a list of all the events you're going to have, let's say for a year, or at the very least for the next 6 months, or maybe the next quarter. List out all the events that you're going to have. And then list out all the ways you can promote an event. So everything from video to print advertising, digital media, list it all out. And then determine a tier 1, 2, or 3. So maybe a tier 1 is your top tier and it gets everything. And maybe tier 2 gets half of those things. And maybe tier 3 gets just a couple of those things. And then put a price point to those tiers. So maybe tier 1 is $1,000. And then maybe tier 2 is $500. It's half of that. And then maybe tier 3 is just free. Like it's everything you can do free to promote something. So the benefit of this is that it's going to help you create a budget. So maybe you have 5 events that are tier 1s. Now you know there's $5,000 needed for those events to promote those events well. And maybe you have 4 events in tier 2, and those are $500. So that now there's another $2,000. All of a sudden you have $7,000 of promotional budget that you know you need. And in tier 3 is free, so you don't need anything for that. So now you have a very clear budget that you need. So the final step, once you've determined tier 1, 2, and 3, take those events and place them into a tier 1, 2, or 3. This is probably the hardest part because then you're going to have to present this to that ministry and say, hey, you're a tier 2, and they're going to have to deal with that. Why am I not a tier 1? But that's what you can do, and it'll help you plan. And when you plan well, you execute at a higher level. There's greater results, and it's going to be amazing. The tier system really helps the quality go up. It helps you to budget, and it helps to create alignment on your staff, so everybody kind of knows here's what's going on. So make sure you do get these events right. View them as on-ramps, and create the lanes, the next steps that are the life of the church, so that you maximize your events. You have the clarity of what the event is about. It's about drawing people into the church that aren't currently part of the church, and then helping them to take next steps to become part of the church. Or maybe it's taken at the same time, you could do this at the same time. It's taking people that are just attenders at the church, they come, but how do you create next steps when they do show up at those events to help them get into the lane where they now start to participate and give towards the bigger picture? They become part of the family. This strategy will be a game changer for you with your events, and your events are going to help you to see the growth that you want to take place in your church.